Hi everyone, this is Jeff from Eagle Vista Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to take an ordinary photograph, like this photograph of a balloon, and create something unique such as this, just using a few Photoshop filters and procedures. Now this is a very simple procedure, there isn't a lot of complication involved here. I'm just using Adobe Photoshop Creative Cloud version 2015. You can use any Photoshop version that you might have. I think pretty much any version going back to about the last 10 years should work. The only thing you really need is you need to have the fill or the twirl command, and under filter, if you go down to the distort menu, you'll need to have twirl because that's the main filter that we're going to use for this procedure. Now, this procedure or the final result is often referred to as twirling. It's been around for a long time, nothing new here. It's just been quite popular through the years, and I kind of wanted to create a quick tutorial to show you how you can take one of your photographs and do this as well. So let's get started. Back in my original photograph, I have my background layer. I have nothing else right now. What I want to do first is create a duplicate of the background layer. And to do that, you just hit Command J or Control J if you're on a PC. I'm using a Mac today. And create our duplicate background layer. And we're going to start by working on this layer. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to Filter and select Pixelate and then select Mezzo Tint. Now, on the Mezzo Tint dialog box that comes up, I want you to go down underneath the type and select medium lines. This is important. What this is going to do is set up our image for all the procedures that follow. When you hit OK, it's going to render something that looks like this. Now I know this rendered pretty quick, so bear in mind that what I've done here for the video, for the purposes of the video, is I've shrunk the picture I'm using quite a bit, so it's a lot smaller than it would come straight out of the camera. You're probably going to want to do this on your full-size image so you get the best quality you can. So the procedures I do here are probably going to take a little bit longer. So don't get frustrated if twirl procedure or one of these other filters ends up taking a minute or two to complete. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just that I'm working on a very small image right now. So now what I've got is I've got this mezzo tinted image. What we're basically doing with this filter is setting up the image for the procedures we're going to do next. It's kind of like almost like taking a piece of wood and roughing it up with a piece of sandpaper so that when you paint it, the paint will stick better. It's kind of the vision I have of this. So by doing this, we're just setting up the image, giving it a base for the next procedure. So the next one we're going to do, still on the same layer, go up to Filter. We're going to go to Blur and select Radial Blur. And under this dialog box, I want you to select in the amount. I want you to set it to 100. Under the blur method, select zoom, and under quality, select best and hit OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to create something that looks like this. Now if you see the final result here, the twirling, you're kind of seeing where I'm going with this. I've created this and now I'm going to twirl it. But before we do that, I want to actually apply this radial filter a couple more times. So if you go up to the filter menu and select radial blur right at the top, you'll notice that whatever filter you ran previously will still be up here at the top, so you can just click here to run it a second time, and it'll run a second time with the same settings that you had the first time. So I click here to run it a second time. You'll see everything gets a little bit more radialized, I guess, and then I'm going to run it actually a third time. Now you can run this 3, 4, 5 times. It doesn't really matter. It'll give you a slightly different result each time. I'm going to run with 3 this time because I think that should be good enough. So now we have a layer that has our radial blur on it. Again, I want to take this layer and I want to duplicate it. So I'm going to hit Command or Control J, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. So now I have 2 layers of the same thing. I'm going to start out by twirling each one of these. So I'm going to shut off the top one just right now and we'll work on the bottom one. So make sure you got this first one selected. Go up to the filter menu again, select Distort, and then select Twirl. And underneath the angle that you have down here, the number, I want you to type in 80. What that does is it's going to twirl the image. You'll notice that it's twirling it kind of in the clockwise direction. That being done, I want you to select the top layer, make sure the eyeball's turned on so it's on. And now obviously you can't see to the bottom layer anymore. But I'm working on this top one. We're going to do the twirl again. So go up to Filter. Don't select this one because that will run the same filter exactly the same as we did before. This time we want to run everything backwards. We want it to twirl the opposite direction. So I'm going to go to Distort, hit Twirl, and instead of 80, I'm going to type in -80 and hit OK. So now that's going to twirl it in the counterclockwise direction. Now to finish up here, all I need to do is change the blending mode. I'm going to change the blending mode to lighten. And what that does is allow you to see through this to the bottom and gives you our final twirled image, which looks pretty neat. But you'll notice on mine, it looks different. It looks like kind of a darker image, not quite so light. That's because I used, instead of lighten, I actually used for that particular one, the darken command. And that changes everything kind of inverted, if you want to say. Now you can use any of these blend modes as you want. You can try, let's say, multiply. You could use screen mode. All of these are going to give you different effects. There's hard light and soft light. I've found through time that the two that work the best are usually darken or lighten. Most of them will look good with lighten. Some of them are going to look good with darken. It really just depends on your personal taste. Let's go with darken here today. Now, this is not quite done. There's a couple things I want to do yet. The first thing I'd like to do is add just a little bit of contrast. So I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer, and then I'm going to add some contrast. So I'm going to go down in the very lower left, and I'm going to pick a dot and lower it down like this. I'm going to pick another dot here in the upper right, and I'm going to make it up a little bit. What this is going to do, I'm going to go just a little more on that darken, right about there. What this is going to do is add just a little bit of contrast. Now you may like this, you may not like this. That's fine. Either ways, whatever works for you is fine. You'll notice I use darken. Let's see what it looks like with lighten. See, that doesn't look too bad either. Let's go with this one for now. I'm going to go with this one. We'll go different than what the other image is. We'll be a little bit brave here. So now I've added some contrast. There's just one more thing I'd really like to do, and that's sharpen it. And there's a real good trick for doing this. I'm going to create a copy layer that has all of these combined, but yet keeps everything non-destructive. So I'm going to hit Command, Option, Shift, E. On a PC, I believe that would be Control, Alt, Shift, E. That creates a layer here on the top that's a combination of everything below. And now I can freely work on this. I'm going to go up to the Filter menu, click Sharpen. I'm going to select Unsharp Mask. And for this particular one, I use 130 as the amount, 80 for the pixels, and 25 for the threshold. You can kind of see what it did here. Turn it on and turn it off. It adds some sharpening, just adds a little bit of detail. Now you can adjust these however it will work for your taste. And keep in mind too that I've got a much smaller image, so any filter that I apply when it comes to sharpening is going to be much more drastic on my image than it will be on a larger one. So if you're using a full-size image right out of your camera, you're going to probably have to do a little bit more of this to make it look as dramatic as what I've done. So just keep that in mind. So I hit that OK and apply that, and there you go. I've got a lot more contrast, a lot more sharpening, a little bit more detail. So that's about it. That's all it really takes to do this. If you go back to the original, we'll go all the way back to the top so we can see what it looked like before. Here's the image, what it looked like before, and what it looks like towards the end. Now looking back at the beginning, you're going to notice that I selected this picture kind of on purpose. There's a lot of different colors in here, a lot of primary colors. The balloon has a lot of really bright reds, greens, yellows, blues, everything, all the primary colors are pretty much included in this balloon. Then you've got a white and blue area right around it for the sky, and then this greenish yellowish area right around here. If you go back to what our final image looks like, you can kind of see there's the reds from the balloon. It's darker down here where the trees were. Then you've got the yellowish or the blues and the white colors all kind of here in that band around the balloon. So from this you can learn that the image you pick, it's going to have a real big impact on what the final result of this procedure is going to be. So you can select an image and just look at the image before you run it. Pick an image and kind of then run this procedure and see what the results are. Experiment, kind of figure out what different images are going to produce for final results. Only through practice are you really going to determine what the final result is. Because it's really kind of surprising. When you're done, you generally end up with something different every time. So you can also experiment with the twirl angle. Instead of having an angle of 80, make it 120 or 150 or 360. The more you do it, the more twirl you're going to get. And you can do more in the opposite direction, more in the other. Make 4 layers instead of 2. The procedure modifications are pretty much unlimited. So I kind of hope this will spark a little bit of imagination, a little bit of creativity in you. Take some of your pictures and give this a shot. Thanks for watching, and happy shooting!